something called the British Stunt Register, which is essentially the way to become a stuntman in the UK. I got on the stunt register last year, and I think ever since then I've been a bit lost. Not lost, probably lost actually, if I'm honest. Like the first time in 5 years I've not had something on paper to go for. I mean, it got to the point where, because obviously we were so restricted with the numbers that we had over there, I'd be doubling for like the cast, and then I'd have a Moroccan extra, like being a body double for me. I was just like, this is insane. I think it's Jimmy Carr that said like the meaning of life is to enjoy the passage of time.
Yeah.
The chances of you being here on this planet are way less than you winning the lottery. The fact me and you are here having this conversation is like a mad turn of events. Ultimately, I'm doing the job that like 10 years ago I was dreaming about doing, and I'm doing it. So like, every day I'm grateful for doing that. Your journey is not the same as anyone else's. Run your race at your own speed and like just be present in your own life. And I know people that spend so long thinking without doing that years go by and they haven't done anything. So just do.
So where do we start then? Because you do too many things.
It's probably some undiagnosed ADHD, I reckon.
Yeah. Because I was looking at your Instagram and I had a little look at the background, and it was, so you got stuntman, you got MMA, you got BJJ, you got boxing, you got climbing. Obviously you go exploring, travelling, a bit of camping, a lot of wrestling, and a lot of gymnastics. So the main question is why? Why did you do all that?
I think like if you were to take the stuntman thing, that kind of just encapsulates all of those things into one. So kind of took everything that I enjoy. So being active, doing stuff where you get buzz, like chasing a buzz, or you're scrapping, or having a good time, and you kind of put them together into a career. Like there's your career in one. So I think that covers the stuntman thing. And then as for everything else, like I got thrown into gymnastics from a young age. So I think I started gym when I was maybe 3 or 4, something. Yeah, and I got to the point, I think I was 8. Between 8 and 10, I was probably doing like 20 hours of gymnastics a week. And then, dipping in and out of martial arts as well, growing up. And then, just, I get bored. I get bored really easily. Last year, like, Max Brent, like, mutual friend, he was like, oh, mate, do you fancy going paddleboarding? And I was like, yeah, cool. So I just went out and bought a paddleboard. I was like, yeah, I'll take that up all summer. It'd be great. Weather's good. Used it once. Haven't used it since. I've used it twice, actually. That's a slight lie. But I've lost the oar. So, like, the second time I was using it, I was, like, scooping my hand and, like, my mate's flying. I was just like, this is a shambles. Growing up, I always was wanting to, like, find the boundary, or, like, where's your limit? Where's the bit where you're uncomfortable? Where's the bit that you need to push through? And there's a saying, and I heard it probably, like, 5 years ago, and I was like, that is pretty much me down to a T. And it's like, the closer you get to dying, the more alive that you feel. So, like, whenever you're doing something that's a little bit sketchy, or, like, you're like, whoa, hang on a minute. Like, I'm buzzing. Like, I love it. But the problem is, you get used to, like, no matter what in life, you get used to it. So, I don't know, for example, you get your first car and you're like, oh, it's a 1.4 and it's quick. And then after a little while, your 1.4 is not so quick anymore. So you want a 1.6, you want a 1.8. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with anything else. So you have to learn to kind of appreciate where your limit is as well. Because I've done a few things where you're just like, what am I doing here? Or, So, but I just think the buzz comes, I don't really know where it comes from. But
Do you think it came from a young age just because you were, like, forced into it? Or do you think it was always there?
I don't know. No, I'd have to do some like proper self-exploration into myself to work out where it comes from. But I don't know. Like I love doing things practically. Like I'm a very practical person, and obviously everything I've done has always been about using my body. And I love. Like you get the same buzz. Like you've just started jiu-jitsu, so when you're rolling in jiu-jitsu, you get that buzz, don't you? Like that. And I'm having a scrap, that adrenaline kicks off. That's probably why I do most of the things I do, because I think, like, you have dopamine as well, don't you? Your whole body and, like, your motivation for doing anything is governed by dopamine. So it's wherever you find dopamine. And I think, like, the important thing is that it's not quick. So, like, TikTok and things like that, you get on TikTok and it's just, you sit there scrolling for hours. It's just easy dopamine and it just kills your brain off.
Yeah, I deleted it.
Yeah, I've got rid of it. Like, I just can't hack it.
I get what you mean. Everyone's got a short, like, stimulus now.
Yeah, for anything. And I think, like, no matter whatever works for you, whatever makes you tick, your brain will go to the easiest way of, like, making you feel good. So whether that's alcohol, whether it's TikTok, whether it's drugs, whatever your brain has become accustomed to, like, if this is like your baseline level of dopamine here, so this is like where you are normally, whatever takes you to here, like the quickest your brain's going to want. But the problem is, if it's a quick hit of dopamine, you're going to crash down even further, and it takes a lot longer to get back up. And I feel like that's what's happening with me and TikTok. I don't know why we're on a tangent about TikTok. We're asking about what I do, but
then how do you personally try and train that to make it longer instead of a short stimulus?
Because I think it's the instant gratification of stuff, or the instant hit of dopamine, that's toxic. So, like, for example, you go and do a gym session, like in the gym, there's a long-term benefit of going and, like, lifting weights, or there's a long-term benefit of going for a run. But the dopamine doesn't come until afterwards. So, like, if you think about the gym, like, it feels good when you're in there, but, like, the best part about the gym is when you leave. Like, that's when you get the sense of reward. Like, I've smashed it, I've done it, boom. Like, and there's your reward for your brain. I think with, like, TikTok and stuff, and like even Instagram and, like, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm on Instagram just for work, to be honest with you. But I even find myself just sat on that scrolling, looking at other people's lives, and it's like their life's no more interesting than mine. My life's probably quite boring as well. Like, but be present in your own moment. Do you know what I mean? Don't rely and, like, comparing yourself, or why are they doing that? Why am I not doing that? I think that's why we're like a generation of lost people, because we're trying to find our identity through other people.
Talking about comparison, have you been in that mental state where you've been comparing yourself to people?
I think subconsciously we do. I think everyone does. Like, if you think, we're basically just animals, and, like, we live on status. You think, like, hundreds
School,
of thousands
popularity.
of years ago. Yeah, like, but everything, yeah, school, popularity, sports teams, who's getting picked to do what. When you're out, like, you're 18 and you're 19, and you see, like, 18-year-olds out, and they're just, like, out looking for a fight, you know, it's just testosterone's wild, and you're trying to find your status, and, like, no different to chimps, like, they do the same thing. And I think you do the same on Instagram, but it's where your metric for, just if you've got 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers, like, how does that mean that you're better than anyone else? Like, what does that actually mean? And I think that's the problem, isn't it? Or, you know, if you're looking at other people, and, for example, Joel, your friend Joel was on here, like, he does property. Like, I've not got any property. Like, that's pretty much through choice right now, because for me, it's not the be-all and end-all. But if I was to sit there and go, well, like, Joel's got property, I haven't, or so-and-so's bought a house, or my mate's married, or done this or done that, I haven't done that. Like, comparison is like the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Like, if you're comparing yourself to others, like, your journey is not the same as anyone else's. So I think, like, if you just, like, run your race at your own speed, and, like, just be present in your own life. And I think that's the problem with social media.
It was actually something that Joel said to me. He said, like, everyone's got their own goals. You've got your goal. I've got my goal. Joel's got his goal. Everyone's got their goal. And he says the way he looks at it is this. He looks at me and he compares the way that I'm trying to push for my goal, comparing to the way he's trying to push to his goal. Not comparing the goals, but comparing the way you're trying to push to it. So he said if he's looking at me and he's seeing me doing this sort of stuff, he then thinks, I don't want to do this sort of stuff because that's Lewis's goal. I want to do the same sort of effort, but with my goal. So he compares more the effort towards the goal rather than the goal itself.
But that's good, because he's got the awareness to do that. So I think the problem then comes with, like, you're funneled from school, right, to be a good employee, to go to sixth form, to go to university, to come out with a degree, to get a job, to get a house, to get married, to have kids, and, like, that is drilled into you. I remember sitting in my sixth form and a meeting about going to sixth form at school, and they're just like, just wondering which subjects you're going to be doing at sixth form. And I'm like, I'm not going to be here. And they're like, what? Like, you're going to get really good grades at GCSE, like, you could go to a good university, you could do this. And I'm like, yeah, I just want to be a stuntman. And they're just like, it's how they just laugh. They laugh. They're just like, you know, you need to have a serious think about this and be realistic. And they were like, well, what are you going to do in the meantime? I was like, I don't know, get out, I'll get a job, like, earn some money, do what I've got to do. But I think, that comparison thing comes from if you get funneled into that ladder of, like, you know, you're probably not on that ladder, I'm definitely not. I assume your friend Joel's not. We used him as an example. But if you're on the same ladder as, like, everyone else, like, everyone's on a ladder next to each other, and you're like, hang on a minute, he's like 2 rungs above me.
Yeah.
Like, why is he 2 rungs above me?
Yeah.
Like, what's he doing that I'm not? Or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just do your
Focus
own
on
thing.
your own ladder, and you get there where you get there.
100%.
So back to school then. What were you like?
That would depend entirely on who you ask, to be honest with you. I think school was a weird one for me because I had a good time at school. Like, I definitely had a good time. I've got fond memories of school. And I think through primary school, I was pretty well behaved. Secondary school, I was also pretty well behaved. I wasn't an outrageous student. I was probably just a bit boisterous. Like, I think I got the award, like end of year award for class clown or something in like year 11 or something silly. But like, I was never malicious with anything. I was just like, it wasn't serving its purpose for me, like, at all. I knew what I wanted to do. I kind of understood like I needed to get GCSEs, so I kind of ended up doing those, like, as you've got to do. But I was like, we go back to that popularity thing. Like, I wasn't like by any stretch like the most popular kid in school.
But then you did sports. That kind of
kind of accelerates that, I suppose. And like, don't get me wrong, like, if you had like your popular group, like, I'd be with them. But on the same premise, I'd also float about. And I think this is evident in my relationships nowadays with people. Like, I could be with this group of people, and then if you were to take like the outcast kids, like, I could quite easily spend a lunchtime with them as well.
I was very similar.
Like, I kind of don't want to be like that guy that, like, I'm a lone wolf man. Like, I'm such a lone wolf. I don't need anyone. Like, so that's not me. Like, you do need people. But like, yeah, I wasn't asked about like the status or like, I'm with these guys, I'm with those guys. Like, I just didn't care.
Did you go to the same school as Max? Sorry.
No, I didn't. No, I went to it's called Homely Park now, I think.
Okay.
It was Beaufort.
Oh,
when I was at school, Beaufort. Okay. Yeah. So it was an interesting school. I think I remember like being there the first week, and like the bins were on fire in the playground, and I was just like, this is mad. This is gonna be good fun. But yeah, no, it was cool, and the school had a mix of like teachers that you knew were there because they wanted to be there, a couple that were there for just the paycheck. A few were there because they made the wrong career choice. I don't really know, but like, I come out with good results. I've got good memories. I don't really, like, to be honest with you, I don't really speak to that many people from school anymore. If I see them like out and about, like, I'm friendly as them, like, great to see you. Like, always like, oh yeah, we'll go for a beer and catch up, but like, we never do. So it's like, oh mate, great to see you. We'll grab a beer or a coffee sometime. Yeah, don't ever talk again until I bump into them 2 years later.
It's life.
But yeah, like, I just think the school system's jacked really for nowadays. Like, you're judging everyone on the same premise of like, but there's no. I mean, like, you leave school. I had a business for 5 years until recently, and you leave school. You don't understand how taxes work. You don't understand how to get a mortgage. You don't understand like pretty much anything. Like, you're really unequipped for like the real world, and that's a big learning curve when you get out. So I just think the system needs to change, and it needs to. You need to like accept that people are going to go on different paths and like try and guide them, as opposed to just like pigeonholing everyone onto the same thing, because no one's going to do it.
So if you look at a 1990s car and you look at a 2013 car, the difference. But you look at like hospitals and you look at schools, they're the exact same as they were. No change, nothing. And is that on purpose? Is that not on purpose? Where's like the creativity? There should be like, I don't know what there should be, but I know it's not it. And I know there should be like more creative sort of stuff, because this stunt man, unless you, like, nobody would have said to you, go and be a stunt man because you're creative, you like this sort of stuff, you like doing everything, stunt man's a good job for you. I don't know if there was anyone that told you about that, or if you came to that on your own.
I think I just found out about like something called the British Stunt Register, which is essentially the way to become a stuntman in the UK. Like, that's how 95% of people, 98, 99% of people in this country become a stuntman or stunt woman, stunt performer, as we should say. Yeah. Unless you're incredibly talented as a specialist in a skill, like, generally speaking, like, if you'll get on the stunt register, and that's how you'll do it. And I just became aware of that when I was probably maybe 13, 14.
Oh, really? That young?
Yeah. But like, it takes a lot of time and money to get into. So like 14-year-old me, like didn't particularly grow up with much money at all. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and like chuck poverty around everywhere like I was walking around on the street. But like, you know, we didn't have much growing up, and like certainly some of the things I've done, you know, if you'd have told even 16-year-old me, like, oh, you know, for example, like scuba diving, you know, I would never thought I'd have had the money to be able to do that, let alone like my rally license and like I've ended up doing. Like it's worked out, but. So I heard about it at like 14 and kind of knew I wanted to do it. Got to 16 and was like, I can't deal with education anymore. Like it's not water in my grass at all, for want of a better phrase. So yeah, and I agree with you. Schools are not. I think like the discipline and stuff's needed. Like if you look at society, like we definitely need to. Like there's a real lack of respect amongst kids and stuff nowadays. Like it was bad when I was younger, but like it's definitely getting worse, definitely. So I think like there's a place for some like uniform in terms of like everyone being in lines and but I just think, where do you draw the line? Where's the grey area? Where do you draw the line? Where do you allow kids to express themselves more? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
I don't think anyone does.
No.
Government should.
Yeah. No faith in them either at times.
And how are you? What's the mental state like right now? How
Me?
are you feeling?
How am I?
Yeah. You happy?
Am I happy? Yeah, like definitely happy. I was actually having a chat this morning. I was at the gym this morning. I sat in the sauna or like next to the jacuzzi. I'm having a chat about this actually, and it's like you ask the question, "How are you?" And I think most of the time you ask the question, and you're like, "How are you?" And 50% of the time you probably want someone to just go, "Yeah, I'm alright, mate. How are you?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" But I just think like, if you're a puzzle, like as a human being, you're a puzzle, and like you've always got missing pieces that you want to add to. So I think like if you were to like look at what makes you a human or like makes you, like in terms of like financially, are you okay? Mentally, spiritually, like physically, I probably would have said physically, I don't know, but like there's so many different aspects of like how you are. So I think for me, I look at myself and like instead of just going like, "How are you?" like I'm good. Like I'll always be good because you've got to be, right? And life, you've got to see life as a gift and you've got to be grateful every day because so many people don't have it. And I think I was being miserable the other day and I was just like sat in my car driving around. Something had ticked me off in the morning. I was just driving down the road and I was just like, and I saw some guy on a crutch smiling. He's got one leg, like literally taken off up here. And he's like laughing as he's going down the road. And I was like, you know what? I've got no right to be miserable whatsoever. I was like, so sort myself out. But no, I'm good. I'm like always stuff to work on. Like on this journey of like self-improvement this year or trying to be like as much as possible because I work really well if I've got like goals to hit, like if I've got like a measurable target. I think probably quite a lot of people do, and I got on the stunt register last year and I think ever since then I've been a bit lost. Not lost, probably lost actually. If I'm honest, because it's like the first time in 5 years I've not had something on paper to go for. So I've kind of been trying to reassess where I'm at just with everything. And I think if you look at your life, you can only work on certain, like so many things at once. So if you're working on your fitness or your physical state and you're working on like your career or your finances, then your relationships are going to suffer. If you're working on your career and then you're really focusing on your relationships, then your fitness is going to suffer. Like I don't think you can juggle it all at once. And if you're going to try, like you probably won't be that effective. I think as a young person, you need to be unbalanced as well for a bit, definitely. Like for me, really focused on like my career, my career and my fitness basically. I mean, they kind of like intertwined, to be fair. So I think like my relationships haven't suffered, but they've probably suffered. So here's me like, I just said, like I'm lost. I'm not lost. I am lost. I probably am. Am lost. And I probably have my relationships probably have suffered. And in fact, they definitely have. Like my relationships, my family suffered because I was just like on the ball all the time. Like relationships break up, and all that stuff that happens when you grow up anyway. And my friends didn't socialize with friends anywhere near as much as I probably should have done. But like I had to do that. Had to make, if you'd call that a sacrifice, like I had to make that sacrifice to get where I am now. So I think this year, going back to that point of like how are you or what you're looking at, Like I'm just trying to look at where I've neglected things maybe, or like where I can grow. Like my fitness is pretty good. Like I've got stuff to work on in that realm, and like work's pretty good as well. Like I'm working and I'm happy with like how work's going. Like so obviously stuff to aim for, and like that's a big focus for me. But I'm just thinking like how am I as a human being? Like how do I interact with people on a daily basis? How do I connect with other people? Like what about the relationships that I foster with others? Like are they deep? Are they meaningful? Like how? I think that what dawned on me is like we're so disconnected as a society because everything's like on your phone, on the internet, like, and you can call it like let's connect on, you know, like LinkedIn, like let's connect, but like how are you actually connecting with that person? Like you're not. And I think a lot of the relationships that we have in life are very superficial. So I think this year I'm looking at how I can, well, this year just in general right now, like how can I
make it more real?
Yeah, how can every interaction be more real? Or yeah, definitely. But then like you can read as many self-help books as you want, but at some point you're like, I still need help.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
When's
it takes
stop?
time though. It does definitely take time. Thing that I like about yourself that I just see through Instagram is obviously what I see is the sort of fun that you try to bring to everything. So like even the other day when you're doing the clean, the power clean.
Oh yeah,
and you're just like the worst. What's it called? The worst form known to man or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, obviously, that could be a goal to get that better and better and stronger. And I'm sure you will because you're that sort of person. But it's like what I think with a lot of people is just have a bit of fun on the way and don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, 100%. Like people take themselves way too seriously. They put too much onus or too much emphasis on what other people think. And I think there's a real good book actually by a guy called Mark Manson. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay.
And like definitely recommend it if you've not read it. But you're gonna die. Like you're gonna die at some point, and when you die, nothing matters. Like because you're in the same size hole as everyone else, and all that matters is when you were here, you enjoyed yourself. I think it's Jimmy Carr that said like the meaning of life is to enjoy the passage of time. Yeah. And like I think mostly that's probably true. Like if you're not enjoying it, like the chances of you being here on this planet are way less than you winning the lottery. Like the fact me and you are here having this conversation is like a mad turn of events. So I think you need to like be grateful for that, find like gratitude and like the most, what would appear to be the most minute of things, like this morning or yesterday morning, like the sun was shining. Just get up and feel like the sun on your face, and you're like, yeah, it's great, it's good. But yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. Like you don't know when you're going to die, and that's why life's good. You might die in 2 weeks, you might die in 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, like you don't know. So enjoy it while you're here.
The becoming a stuntman, that process. You said at 13 you had a look, you're on the register. How did you go from that kid to then going on to... Well, talk to us about your experiences, the shows you've done. I know you've just done one recently, the SES Rogue Heroes. Talk to me about those sort of experiences.
So what do you want me to go for first? Like the becoming of a stuntman, or...
Yeah, talk to me about how that happened and then what sort of stuff you've done as that's progressed.
Right, so to become a stuntman in the UK, like I mentioned, you pretty much join the British Stunt Register. That's the way to go about it. And so the British Stunt Register, for context, would be, I guess you could kind of compare it to the Premier League of football, like to the Premier League of stuntmen. Like, you know, it's the British Stunt Register that do most, you know, most of those boys are on, you know, the big stuff like Game of Thrones or Mission Impossible, but it's not exclusively, but like throughout history, it's been the British Stunt Register that's kind of been the spearhead in the UK for doing those large productions. So that's kind of where you're going to be. And to get on there, you have to do a variety of skills to quite a high level to show that you're a competent athlete, and then also some stunt-related skills as well. So I think now the criteria has changed since I've got on. You have to pass like a screen fighting workshop. So you could be the greatest martial artist in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can fight on screen. Like you have to learn to adapt to be different and like for example, you could throw like the tightest left hook in the world, you know, like Floyd Mayweather, great left hook. Any boxer, great left hook, but it's not going to read on screen 'cause it's so small and tight. So you have to learn to like make those movements bigger. So that's a skill in itself. So you have to pass like a certain level of that, which is an internal thing run by the British Stunt Register. And then there's a variety of skills after that. So it might be rock climbing or gymnastics or swimming or scuba diving or stunt driving, which is incredibly fun to pass that.
So is that why you needed your rally and that?
Yeah, so that's like one of your 6 skills. There's probably like 12 you can pick from, and you have to do 6 across a variety of categories. There's also like high diving, trampolining, horse riding. Yes, there's quite a few. And there's also an option if you're like a world champion or something, to say you're a world champion breakdancer or a world champion, I don't know, something. You can use that like a miscellaneous. You can apply to have that as one of your skills as well. I mean, if like you're world champion in origami, they're probably not going to take that because it's not that useful. But world champion at something which is of use, then you can probably use that as well. Like my mate's just applying to get on now. He's like he was a world-class BMXer. It's a pretty relevant skill. Like they're going to need a BMXer at some point. So he's applied with that. He's just waiting to hear back.
So can you apply with just like one skill, or do you have to?
You need 6. You need 6, but you can use that miscellaneous as one of your skills. So the fighting course is mandatory. So the martial arts side of it is mandatory. I think you also need a brown belt as well. So brown belt in something.
Really?
Yeah, brown belt and the fighting course. I think that's where it's at right now. Although I might be wrong, so don't quote me on that.
So what have you got a brown belt in?
What I submitted my brown belt in Kung Fu.
Okay.
Which is a pretty mad one. Good though, like quite an interesting like old art. Arguably, probably not the most applicable at times unless you master it to like a very high level, which takes a long time. But like for the appreciation of the art, like it's good fun. And then I've just obviously like kickboxed as well, and then I do like my bits of jiu-jitsu and other stuff just to try and be like as well-rounded as possible. So that's the journey to getting on.
Then what was your like first, how many like shows, TV shows, or how many professional stuff have you done in the stunt world?
It's funny, like first question, if you meet someone, they're like, it's always the first question someone asks. It's like, oh, what do you do? Or like, I'm like, oh. I usually just go like, I work in the film and TV industry, because I'm just like, I'd rather say that than I'm a stuntman. And then they're like, oh, sometimes that pacifies people. Unless I'm at a bar or something, then it's just like great job title. And they're like, yeah, what do you do? I'm a stuntman. No. But yeah, so usually just go like, I work in the film and TV industry. Sometimes that pacifies people, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, that's cool. And I was like, yeah, cheers, cool, sweet. End the conversation. Well, like, can I find out about you? And then sometimes they're like, oh, what do you mean? What do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a stuntman. And then half the time it's like, no, you're not. And like, I don't believe you or whatever. I suppose it is a pretty wacky job title. What was the question? How many bits have I done?
Yeah, how many stuff have you done?
So the next question you always get is like, oh, what films have you been in, or what this or what that? And like, it just becomes like a bit of a blur. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not making out like I've got 10 years experience in the industry here, because I haven't. But you just sort of turn up to work, and like every day is a little bit different.
Okay.
And so it'd be like someone asking you like, how many haircuts have you done or something like that. I don't know, you might have counted.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
Like God knows.
God knows, yeah. But I've done like a variety of bits. To be honest with you, I did like a fair bit of stuff before I got on the stunt register. The majority of stuff I've done since I've been on hasn't come out on TV, so I can't really talk about it too much. Because obviously, like, they'll sue me, send me to prison, and do what they want with me. But
has the SAS come on TV now?
Yeah, SAS Rogue Heroes. I did that prior to getting on the stunt register.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was before I got on. We shot that literally during COVID. So we started. I think we like had our first pre-production meetings. I think I got the job in December 2020. Which is pretty good for me, because it was like a messy time. I'd just been through a breakup with my ex-girlfriend, so that must be like nearly 3 years ago, 2.5 years, something like that. And then, so I was like, and it was lockdown as well, so it's not like have a breakup and you're like, oh, just get out and about, like do the thing. True. You're like, it's lockdown. there's a pandemic. If I do go out and about, I'm getting a £200 fine off the old bill. So I'm going to stay in. So then I got this job, and it was like, there's a job. Going to go overseas for 3 months.
Was that in COVID then?
Yeah. So okay. I got that in like December of 2020. That was when it was like, I remember that was when it was like the tier system. So you have different tiers, and depending on which tier your city or area was in, would depend on what you were allowed to do. That was when
it was a tiny bit more relaxed.
Yeah, because I remember being in London, and I was in London visiting some friends, and it gone into tier 4 the day that I was there, and I just drove home. Like everything was shut in London, and I just drove home to Gloucester, and everything was open. It was like 2 different countries.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, and then I found out about the job. I applied for the job, got the job. I think we had like our first pre-production meeting that we got involved in. It was like 20 of us, like all the different, like the main cast were there, and like a few, and we were there. Probably in like the January or something, and then just went from there really. I think we probably started filming in the March, flew to Morocco early May, March, April, I did like 2 months. Early May we flew to Morocco, like that was mental. I had to like no one was flying at that point. We were the only people allowed into Morocco. We had letters off the Moroccan government saying like these people are allowed here, and turned up to some random airport in the middle of the desert, and then like got chaperoned to our hotels. COVID, like bam, bam, bam when you're there. So yeah, it was good. And then we're there for like 3 months. Just
no way, 3 months.
Yeah, I think 3 months, or pretty close to either just short of or just over. We did 2 and a bit months in the desert, and then about a month on the coast, or like 3.5 weeks on the coast. I can tell you, after being in the desert for 2 and a bit months, the sea is like unreal.
Is it?
Yeah, because came from like, what was mad, went to a place called Essaouira, which is known as the Windy City. And I think it was like 24 degrees. I mean, what was it here yesterday? Like 14?
Yeah.
And I was rocking like shorts, sandals, and like loving life like it was summer. And it was 24 in Essaouira. And I was sat there shivering in a blanket, because I'd just been used to like the desert, which was 50 degrees.
Oh, I get you.
So you literally get like 100 or like a half, complete halving in what the temperature is. And it's like 24 degrees, and you sat there like, oh my God, because anyone got a blanket? And you're like, what am I doing? It's 24 degrees. But it was mental, and like the desert's mental. Like, I don't even know.
What was it like working there? Like, what was the experience like working?
It was a mental job. I don't think I'll ever have a job and we all said it, like we don't think we'll ever be on a job quite as mental as that, because we're obviously dealing with COVID when we're there as well. The heat, like no one's really filming in the desert that time of year because of how hot it is. But we had to get it done.
Can you tell me what sort of shots you personally?
Yeah, I was pretty much in most days, to be fair, doing like a complete multitude of things. It might have been, we were all like designated into little teams, kind of. So there were like the 3 main characters. There were Paddy Mayne, David Sterling, and Jock Lewis.
Because one was in sex education, wasn't he?
Yeah, so that's Connor, and he played David Sterling.
Okay. And who are you? Is it like one stunt performer for the one lead or something?
No, so I wasn't even on the stunt team.
Okay.
I wasn't on stunts on that job. But we all got put into, there were like 3 teams. We all got put into different teams, like right from the beginning, because that's what happened. Like we were basically telling the story. So put into teams, and then just basically followed the story of what those teams did. But we were in most days, and you know what? The days where I wasn't shooting as myself or whatever character I was playing, I was shooting and I was being a German soldier getting shot at, or doing something else, or like every day was different. It was mental, or I was doubling up to do something else, or I was doubling up to play one of the cast members, or I mean it got to the point where, because obviously we were so restricted with the numbers that we had over there, I'd be doubling for like the cast, and then I'd have a Moroccan extra like being a body double for me. I was just like, this is insane.
So were you technically an actor in that? Like, did you have any speaking lines or no?
We all ended up with like little bits of lines here and there.
No way.
We're listed as cast. Our role was a weird one, to be honest with you, because we got put there as like specialists. They call us specialists, but like just people that were competent with firearms and weren't your everyday Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street. But I mean, like, if you look at the bottom line of what we did, we like, if you took our official job title, like, we started off as kind of like just important extras, and then just ended up becoming like really valuable to the production, and like digging in, and it was sound, man. It was good.
And how many people were there as the cast?
So the cast was, there were like the main cast, like the main SAS cast, there were 10. There were also then 10, I think about 10 like French and Germans, and then there were 10 of us that were the rest of the SAS basically, and I say like we were extras, but like we were treated as cast basically, in terms of like on a film set, extras. Have you ever seen the TV show Extras?
No.
So the extras, bless them, they get a bit of a bad rep, and not always rightfully so. So it's a hard one, because you're very replaceable. Do you know what I mean? Like, as an extra on a film set, you might just, like, your job all day might be walking from here to there, and then you might do that, like, walk back. Like, that might be your thing. Like, so we definitely weren't doing that. Like, that's not what our role on the show was. But yeah, we just like we were just the boys. Like, I'm still friends with like the actors. I still like meet up with them now. Like, it was a proper good job for that, for like the social side of it.
Nice.
But yeah, so driving jeeps, doing whatever, like mucking in, falling over, having a good time.
Was that like, if you take yourself back to that 13-year-old kid that was registering for this, like, I know you're not done yet, but was that like the dream? You were living the dream?
I think I'm probably living the dream now. But how often? I mean, how often do you stop and take a step back at what you... Like, if you'd have told 13-year-old me that I was doing what I was doing now, like, I've probably got everything that I wanted as a 13-year-old right now. Like, I've probably got everything I wanted by the time I was 30. Like, but it just becomes normal, doesn't it? Like, the more money you earn, the more you spend, or like, you know.
Well, like you were saying earlier on, with the 1.4, 1.6, like, obviously, as a 13-year-old, you said that you might have got everything that you wanted by your 30, but now there's a new goal, a new where to push. Like, I don't know if you've seen the Matthew McConaughey Oscar speech, where he's like...
I have, but if you were to ask me about it in depth, I wouldn't be able to
said
tell
it. He basically said, like, when he was 15, he had a guy come to him and say, "Who's your hero?" And then he said, "It's me at 25." And then he's like, that same guy came over to me when I was 25, and he said, "Who's your hero? Are you your hero yet?"
Yeah.
He's like, "No, God, no. That's me at 35.
Yeah.
And then he came to him again at 35, and he said, "You your hero yet?" He's like, "No, it's me at 45. He's like, "You got to see, I've always got somebody to chase. So even if you've got a goal by 30, that goal by 30 can easily be achieved by 23.
Yeah.
Right now. And
I don't
you've always got
like
somebody to chase."
My goal wasn't 30. Like, I'm not saying like my goal to be where I'm at now was 30. Like, definitely wasn't. But what, like, I think especially as a kid, or like in school, I remember like I was fascinated by money as a kid as well. And I think, like, I used to sell sweets out of my bag and like
No way.
Coke
Just
cans.
like Joel.
Yeah, but, like I've always had a little business thing on the go, or like, mate, I've had like maintenance businesses. I had a maintenance business. I had like an events company. I DJ'd in nightclubs. I was DJing.
Yeah, I saw a bit of that.
Yeah. And then I had like a gymnastics club for like 5 years, which I recently just shut down.
What was that called?
Lloyd's Academy of Gymnastics.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. We had like 250 kids coming every week. I absolutely loved it, to be honest with you. I grew sick of it a little bit, because I ended up just creating a job for myself. It was at the point where, for quite a while, and it ran when I was in Morocco, and it would run, and I had a team on it, and it was cool. But I just became like a customer service salesman of my own business, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. And then I just had staffing issues as well. I couldn't hack the stress anymore. I was just in like this state of constant hypertension, and I was like, you know what? For my own well-being, like, I need to take a step back. I need to move on from this now.
So did you completely stop, or did you sell it on?
I shut it down completely. I've essentially sold I had like 3 branches, I suppose you could call it. It's a difficult business to sell because gymnastics clubs notoriously don't have much money. And I did contact pretty much everyone locally that I know. I'd like to say I'm relatively well respected. I'm probably not, but amongst like my colleagues in gymnastics. I contacted everyone and I was like, do you want to make a really quick acquisition? I'll give it to you for free. Like, you can have all my kit, you can have everything. For me, like, I just wanted the kids to have something. Like, I felt very, very guilty for the kids. Like, growing up, like I said, didn't have much money. So the only reason me and my brother did gymnastics was because we were sponsored. When I say we were sponsored, like, I think they just used to let us train for free, which is like obviously incredibly kind. And without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I felt like a sense of duty to provide something for kids. And I also had like quite a few kids there that either didn't pay or were on reduced fees, and like that was my way of giving back. But my biggest guilt thing was like shutting it down for the kids, what the kids going to do, which was difficult to come to terms with actually. Like, it did stress me out. But I've managed to like hand over the torch to someone in Gloucester, and we have an agreement. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to flash a load of cash and that I've sold a business, because
Sold a business.
like I haven't really. I've just kind of passed the torch on, and I will be financially rewarded for that. Like, in a bit, I'm not stressed. It's cool.
And will that always be something that you're gonna keep pushing forward, that business side of you?
I think so. Yeah, I can't sit still, and when the stunt stuff's really busy, like, takes up your life. But when it's not, like at the minute, I'm just sort of jobbing around a little bit. I like just doing, like, for example, I'm working tomorrow. I'm working 2 days next week. I've got a few days, a couple of weeks after that, and then it'll go busy. And then when it goes busy, then you're just flat out, and that's your life basically. But yeah, I've like already been sat with mates. Like, I've got this idea for a business or this, that, and the other. I think I will. I think I'll always end up doing something, because I don't like sitting on my laurels. But that's, like I said earlier, the stuff I want to work on now, and I just need to give myself some time to do that. So I'm going to do that basically.
So what are the goals for the near future, far future? Have you got anything that you want to strive towards?
I'd love to sit here. If you'd have asked me 2 years ago, or if you'd have asked me a year ago, I'd have been able to give you the most inspiring answer in the world about where I wanted to be and what I want to do. Right now, I don't have that answer, like, in the slightest. I don't have like a big goal to achieve anymore. I don't know where I'm at. Like, and it's quite a nice place to be. I'm just trying to be more present in my own life, as opposed to like I'm an incredibly disciplined person, generally speaking, especially Monday to Friday. Probably drink a bit too much beer on the weekend. But like I'm grafting every day. Like, I'm up at a reasonable hour most days. I'm training like at least twice a day. So I think in terms of my continual growth, I'm just improving on like the foundation that I've built. I've got like loads of miniature goals to be hitting in terms of different skills that I want to learn and stuff like that, which might benefit my work. But in terms of, if you were to ask me where I envisage seeing myself in 5 years' time, I think for the first time in my life, I probably can't answer that question.
Because more internal goals at the moment.
Because I don't know. Yeah. I think what's difficult is that it's your metric for success. So, like, what is your metric for success? Is it having a mortgage? Is it having a nice car? Is it having a job? Is it having a wife? Is it having, like, where do you put your idea of success? And if you put that in the wrong place, then you're going to be a very unhappy individual, because what happens when you get it? Like, if nothing changes, like, you get a nice car, you might enjoy it for a week, but like nothing changes at all. Like, you get a new job, it's going to change a few things, but like realistically, if like you've got to live with yourself, do you know what I mean? So everything that's like external can change, but around you, but internally, like, you're the same.
Yeah,
it's not going to change you as a person. So I think maybe that's just the period I'm in, of like, is working on myself. I hate that phrase of like, oh, you got to work on yourself.
Yeah,
but like,
that's true.
But maybe it's true. Like, maybe that's just where I'm at right now. And like, goals with my stunt stuff, like, just to keep working, to work more, to do bigger things, to become To learn, I love learning, like continually trying to learn. So I'll just learn as much as I can. Just be humble, turn up to work, do my job to the best of my ability, go home, and be a good human being. I think that's.
Have you got a goal for like I know you said you don't have a goal now, but like I'm just thinking of like Tom Cruise and like the Mission Impossibles. Like, would that be something that you're looking at and you're like, man, I want to do that?
I think if there was going to be one franchise for me that I'd love to work on, it would be Bond, because I think that's the reason that I wanted to be a stuntman, was because of Bond. Like, I grew up loving James Bond, had the DVD collection. For my 10th birthday, I probably got the DVD collection. I was made up, watched them all through, like, in order. I've probably watched them in order 7 times or something ridiculous. So, like, I would like to, but I think the trade-off is if you get, like, you've got to pay your bills. So if you're going to turn a month's work down on something, and or like a really good opportunity for, like, I don't know, it would be like maybe a footballer asks you to cut his hair one day, or you can turn that down and you're going to have 3 months of work, which will, see you through for a few months after as well.
Yeah, I get
like it's like you can be. It's definitely good to be driven by credits, but I think for me personally, like my own, I would love to work on a Bond. Like that is my answer to the question. But that's not what I'm chasing. If that makes sense.
I get what you mean, because it's either you got consistency, and you've got like, because obviously if I just cut this one footballer's hair, I might get the clout, I might get the money, I might get sort of that fame, but I might not be. Obviously the key word is might, because you might be as well, but I might not be learning as much. Whereas if I'm fully booked, cutting 10, 13 haircuts a day for 3 months, you're learning every single time, and then in 3 months' time, then you might cut a footballer's hair, and then you're even in a better position than you were before.
Exactly. And I just think you've always got to look at your motivation for doing things. Like, why are you doing something? Where is your motivation coming from? So, like, is your motivation for going to the gym because you want to get more girls on a Saturday night? Like, your motivation's in the wrong place. Like, it should be because you want to be a fitter, better individual of yourself. Or, like, if you want to become better at cutting hair, like, why do you want to become better at cutting hair? Like, the reason for doing anything. I think, like, finding your why is the most important. And the why for being a stuntman was because, like I said at the start, it encapsulates everything that I enjoy doing. It provides me with that buzz that I enjoy as well. Don't get me wrong, it has its days where it's not, like, certainly not the most exciting job in the world, and you're in costume and it's heavy and you're wet, but ultimately I'm doing the job that, what am I, 23, so 10 years ago. Like, 10 years ago I was dreaming about doing, and I'm doing it, so, like, every day I'm grateful for doing that. But you've just got to enjoy the process, and I'm not in a position to be picky about the jobs either. Like, I can't sit here and be like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't, like, that's not enjoyable enough for me as a day at work. Like, just your job's so varied, and, like, you've got, like, for me, just I just want to be humble. I want to be the guy that people talk about and they're like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy, he's really good at his job, but he's such a nice guy. I think that goes a long way, because ultimately, like, not just work but anything in life, you can be as good as you want to be, but if you're an arsehole, you're an arsehole.
Do you look up to Tom Cruise and that sort of stuff then?
I mean, like, for what he's achieved, yeah, 100%. I think, like, obviously I respect what he's done massively, and, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's very inspirational. But for me, like, I want to be a stuntman, so I look at like the great stuntmen from the UK, and I try and look at the great stuntmen that are still working but have, like, got long careers, and they've done some amazing stuff, and I look at them, and then I also look at the guys that are doing incredibly well right now, and sort of try and look, same as any business, like, you've got to treat it like a business. Like, although they're your colleagues, they're also, like, your direct business competitors, and that's probably where it might get messy sometimes. So, although you're mates, like, you're also sometimes up for the same jobs.
Yeah.
You're also, that's going to happen.
Do you view that as, like, what's it called? Competitive?
Like healthy competition.
Or do you see it as, like, I want that job?
Not at all. It's difficult though, isn't it? Because like envy is a natural part of being a human being, and I mean I've not come across it yet, so I can't talk from experience in terms of like my mate's got a job that I wanted or like any of those things, because that's not happened to me yet. It will happen, and I hope when that happens, because I could sit here and say, oh well, I won't be the guy that is like internally like screwing about it, but like I might be, like I don't know, but I hope that I'm humble enough and a good enough friend to just be happy for them, because ultimately, like, I want to see my friends doing just as well as I am, if not better.
And how is having friendships and having people around you to support you, how important is that for you?
How important is that? Obviously, like, very important. In terms of like work, most of my friends live in London or dotted around the country. The only work friends for me that are local are two guys called, one's George, who comes into your barbershop, as you just mentioned off camera.
Ollie's mate,
George. He's such a nice lad. And my friend Craig lives in Worcester. They're like my two, guy called Shane, he's another stuntman, lives in Worcester, as well as Craig, he's local. But apart from that, dotted everywhere, so try and have to like harbour relationships from other means as opposed to work, which I think is quite healthy, because when you are working, you spend so much time with your fellow stunt performers that if you were then mates with them completely outside of work, you'd just do your head in, because you'd just be with people that you work with all the time. And sometimes you need space, maybe. I suppose it'd be like you work in a barber shop, and it'd be like your mates being barbers. Like, what would you talk about other than work? Yeah. So, similar. So try and harbour friendships from other places. I've got friends from like previous jobs that I've worked in. I'm quite a sociable person. Like, I'll talk to anyone. And been here today and I've probably chewed your ear off way too much. Absolutely waffled some nonsense.
Good though. You're very similar to me, to be fair. Like, if you were asking me the questions, I'd be waffling on. So yeah, I've just got like random friends, man. And I don't have like a massive circle either. Like, definitely not. I know lots of people. And when we, like, I'm 23, like, go out partying quite a lot, probably more than I should do, as I said earlier, but we'll go out and I'm amazed, like, how would you know everyone? And, like, I'm just sociable, I just like talking to people. And I think that's probably where my umbrage with, is that even a word? Umbrage? That went right over my head. Umbrage, I don't know.
Trying to sound way more sophisticated than I am right now.
I'll search it up after this. It's a word.
I think it's a word, but let's just go with like my problem. My problem with social media comes just from the lack of like authenticity and actual connection that you're making with other people, because I love nothing more than like having a proper chinwag with someone, or having a coffee, or like doing something, like just like, I like my own space, don't get me wrong, like I definitely like my own space, but I enjoy doing stuff with people, either collaboratively or just being out and about and doing stuff. I think we're becoming a generation where we just completely isolate ourselves, and it's not for me, so I won't sit in that camp.
Yeah. And with family then, you close to your family?
Yes, I'm gonna throw the word yes out there. More so now than I ever have been. I think as you get a little bit older, and you start to lose, grandparents and other family members, you kind of, and tragically, like some of your friends lose their parents as well, or your friends' parents have health scares, or like one of my parents had an accident a couple of years ago that's like changed his life. So you kind of see the value in life and how short life is, how things quickly can change. And I think growing up, you're trying to find yourself as well. And I was a pain in the ass teenager, like definitely. Like my mum needs a medal, man. Like how she put up with me. Like I'm not going to say, like my mum was brilliant, absolutely brilliant growing up, as was my stepdad. And my dad was in his own way as well. But they're very different people. Like I kind of grew up like my mum and dad are polar opposites, man. Like How they were ever together, I don't know. Maybe they were more similar back then, but they're polar opposites now. So I think growing up, I was kind of conflicted, and I didn't get on with my parents very well. Any of them, really. Like, I got on with my dad, but I only saw my dad like once every 2 weeks, say, or something like that. So I mean, you can't really not get on with someone when you only see them once every 2 weeks. But like my parents, I clashed with my parents so badly growing up, like verbal rows. Yeah, I mean, you name it, probably had an argument about it.
And is your brother a full brother or half brother?
George, the one that plays football.
Yeah.
George is my twin brother.
Is it?
Yeah, look,
Is it twin?
nothing alike. No, nothing alike
I
at all.
didn't even know you were twins.
Yeah. So
I thought you were similar age. But
no, we're twins. So we were born. I was born on the 10th of February, and he was born on the 11th. I was born at 5 minutes to midnight. He was born at 20 minutes past. So we've actually got different birthdays as well, which is pretty cool.
Weird, yeah.
So I get my own special day.
That's actually, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sharing my presents with anyone.
Yeah. That was probably better for your... I know it's only a day, but for your mum and dad growing up, like, having one birthday on one day and then one birthday on the other.
I don't know, if you look at it, you've got to throw 2 days celebrations, don't you?
Yeah, true.
Could have had it all in one, but... I mean, it's cool. It's nice having your own day. I suppose, like, now I don't care. People are like, oh, it's your birthday next week. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, working, doing something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just another day. But yeah,
how close are
growing
you
up-
guys then?
Me and George. We've got a funny relationship, man. So, again, we did gymnastics together growing up. We played football together growing up. Probably played football together till like 15. We both stopped gymnastics when we were like 12, 13. I went to different secondary schools. So I went to the same primary school, went to different secondary schools.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because we just clashed, man.
Oh, really?
I'm seeing the common denominator here. I'm clashing with lots of people, so it was probably me. I take a lot of responsibility for like how I was growing up, definitely, because I was a pain, man. Absolute pain. But I sent him a message the other day. This is the hilarious thing. I was on the bus home. It must have been like 3 o'clock in the morning. For reference, he's on loan in Grimsby at the minute.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is way, way, way up north. And he'd scored that day. I think our granddad had died like a couple of days prior, so he put on his story something like, that one was for you, granddad, or something like that. Anyway, I've been out having beers with the boys, as usual on a Saturday. It's a lot of pastime. Not a good advocate for alcohol at all. I sent this big long message like, mate, we're not like this at all. So this was like dead out of character. I was like, mate, I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. Like, keep doing your stuff. Trying to be like a good brother, basically. Also because I'd had a few cans. I was like, yeah, sound. Sent him this big long message, like, probably like that long for context, like an iPhone screen length message.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning to just 3 laughing faces. Reply, not like the reply you'd expect, which was, oh, mate, thanks so much. That means a lot. I appreciate it. Like, you're doing so well as well, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I mean, even if I'm not, you'd lie, wouldn't you, as your brother?
Yeah.
But not of him, no. Just like 3 laughing faces, like, good night out, was it? Question mark. And I was just like, yeah, cheers, mate, like that. And me and his girlfriend were talking about it the other day. She was in my car. We were driving up to Liverpool and we were talking about it. And she was like, I know. I saw the message and I was like nearly crying. I was like, that's so lovely. Like, it's so nice to see you two getting on better, this, that, and the other. And then he told me what I replied and I was like, George. And I saw it and I just laughed. I was like, yeah, standard. But we get on fine. And like, despite, I mean, to me, like, family's family. And no matter like what our relationship was like growing up, like, he always knew I had his back. Like, I'm sure he would have had mine as well. And like, do anything for them, like do anything for my mum, for my brothers, for everyone. So
how many other brothers do you have? You got a big family?
So yeah, my dad's got, this is where it gets complicated. So I've got me and my twin brother through my mum and dad. My mum's then remarried to my stepdad. Not remarried, my mum got married to my stepdad. He's got 2 kids as well from another marriage previous.
Did they live with you? Were you like that close?
They lived with us like half the time growing up. They were with their mum half the time. That's Jack and Alex. And then I've also got, from my dad in his previous relationship, before my mum, so these are older siblings, Jamie, Chris and Stacey as well.
Okay, so quite
So like amongst like if you were to like amalgamate that as like a generation, like 8 of us that I'm amongst, across 3 different parents, which sounds really weird, but it's not. I'm just born off one parent and previous marriage.
Are you all sporty? Are you all like activity, or are quite a lot of you different?
So me, Jack, and George are actually all the same age. So that's me, George are twins. My stepbrother Jack, we're the same age. Played football growing up. Jack still plays football now. He's pretty active. His brother Alex doesn't. It's just sports, not his thing. Jamie, I think my older brother Chris probably played rugby like growing up in school, but he's an electrician now. Like he's in his 40s. Like I love Chris to bits. He's cool, but he's just doing his thing. Like he's on holiday all the time. Like he's living a good life. Trained a lot in the gym. He's quite. Like, I remember growing up, he was quite a big boy. Jamie played football, and I'm not sure about Stacey, my sister. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm sure she probably played sport at school, but like I wouldn't say that was like she wasn't like a sporty person maybe. But yeah, I think me and George were like. Yeah, me and George were like the 2 sporty kids, 100%.
Yeah. So I'm guessing he went off football. You went off more. Everything.
Yeah. We played football together, and I was playing for Cheltenham Town as well. And like we got signed to the academy when we were like 8. I think we were probably there for a year. I was like second choice goalkeeper probably.
No way, you're a goalkeeper.
Yeah. I think the other the other goalkeeper, I can't remember his name. I think it might have been Ross. Really nice kid. It was just better than I was, and I was just throwing wobblers left, right, and centre as you do when you're like 9 years old. And I like the coach who was coaching us at the time. He's actually a really nice guy. I'm friends with his son. I just wouldn't say he was the best coach for like 9-year-olds, maybe. And he didn't like. We got scouted and like put straight into the team without a trial. And like, I think that threw some like political like. Well, how can you just put these 2 boys in our academy team without a trial? But like the head scout put us in, so that wasn't a great experience. Then we left, but they kept us on contract. Then we went back to just doing gymnastics. I carried on with that. Then started playing again, and then I think like I'm trying to remember accurately, so I don't either inflate or deflate this story to bigger or smaller than it was. But I think we played for like the development team for quite a long time, which is like slightly below the academy.
Yeah, that's what I played for it as well.
Yeah.
That was called the Shadow Squad.
The Shadow Squad, that might have been
that
it.
Yeah.
We were cool. But then I think me and George also were like training with the academy at the same time. So I think we trained at Hartbury, and I think the academy trained at Hartbury, as did the Shadow Squad. So I think like we train with the academy, and then we go train with the Shadow Squad after or whatever.
Yeah.
And then George, I think I was 14. I was just doing other stuff, and then George like just went full ham into football, and like the kid was an incredible footballer. Like growing up, like you just remember watching him play. I don't think I ever saw anyone as good as him growing up. And we played like West Brom and like Birmingham, and I think we played Everton. No, we didn't play Everton. That's a lie. I did like some Everton soccer school thing. There we go. I was about to inflate a story that never happened there.
You played Everton.
Just trying to remember. But like we played some big teams, and like I just think from memory, and I'm not biased because I definitely didn't. We didn't get on growing up, so I wouldn't like float his boat. But yeah, he was like an incredible footballer. I just got bored, to be honest with you, being stood in between the goalposts. Like see some people I used to play with now, and they're like, "Oh mate, I can't believe you gave up. You'd have done this, that, and the other." But like, just wasn't for me anymore. So just went off and did other stuff, and pretty glad I have, because otherwise I'd probably be doing something I don't want to do right now because I didn't follow the path that I did want to follow. Who knows?
Exactly. Well, what you were talking about earlier, like the priorities, like how do you seek success at that young age? If you're not feeling it, you just gotta go with what you're feeling at that moment. Like I look back at certain stuff because I played at Hartbury, and when I talk to people at work, they're like, "Do you want to open up your own barbershop?" All this sort of stuff. I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do right now. I'm just plodding along at the moment. I know I want to do travelling. I know I want to do this. I don't know if this will bring anything. I don't know if travelling will bring anything. I don't know if the vlogging will bring anything. I'm just doing everything that I want to do right now. And back when I was doing football, I was looking at either going into barbering, doing uni, or going to America for a football scholarship. obviously everyone would look at that and be like, why didn't you go to America for a football scholarship? But like at that time, I wasn't enjoying my football, and I quit and then did barbering. But it's those sort of things where you can't really look back and be annoyed. Obviously, you're glad that you did, but you can't really go back and look at that and be annoyed that you didn't do it when your heart wasn't in it in that moment.
But also, like, how old are you?
21.
21. I'm 23. Like, we're young enough, and I think this is what our entire generation are forgetting. Well, like, I say our generation, but like people our age particularly, or if you're 18 or 19, I'm very fortunate, maybe you are as well, in that like I know what I want to do for a career, and I'm kind of, don't get me wrong, I'm not like at the tip top of where I need to be, but like I've achieved what I need to achieve to take like the next step forward in that. That's probably the best way of putting it. And I'm doing the job that I wanted to do, so there's a good start. But if you don't know what you want to do, like you could just try lots of stuff, loads of different things, just try it, find what you like and roll with that. And you're old enough or young enough to completely mess everything up and start again. And like you come into this world with nothing, so as long as you leave with £1 in your bank or one positive experience, then you're in profit. So just try stuff.
That is another video that I saw of Tyson Fury. He said like all you get in this world is moments in time and memories. And the way he saw it is like, obviously you're working on internally and all that, but he was saying like you're just a shell. Like, I'm
not gonna like. I keep saying I work internally. Like I'm a menace on the weekends. Like I'm not like I've not got anything together whatsoever. But like, and I'm not like I try and do some meditation every day and like do my ice baths and like read a lot.
Yeah.
Try and do all of that stuff, but it's a bit of a mad journey, to be honest with you.
What is your meditation? Would you?
I think it depends on the day, to be honest with you, and also how much time I can set aside to do it. So if I do try and do them before I go to bed, but I should probably do them in the morning. I tend to do just like guided ones, or like just do some breathwork stuff, which is pretty good. But I don't really know. Just try and have time where I'm not connected to my phone or anyone else, and I'm just in my own moment, wherever that might be. Might be sat in my car while I'm waiting to do something. Might be in bed when I wake up in the morning. Might be in bed before I go to bed at night. Might be in the garden. Might be in my front room. Just finding time to be with yourself and yourself only, and nobody else and nothing else.
And is that all to contribute with the just working on yourself this year?
I think it just helps provide me with clarity and make better life choices, because I make some pretty bad life choices at times that I'm guilty of. Nothing like major, but I'm very impulsive. And quite often I'll do something and I'll just be like, why have I done that? Like, what has possessed me to do that? So I think just gives me some time to like almost like step back and give me some clarity on what I need to do or what I should be doing, and going about stuff the right way.
And if there was any advice, anything that you've done in your 23 years...
Don't take life advice off me. That's my biggest bit of advice.
What?
I told my mates I was coming on... I was like, I'm doing my friend's podcast tomorrow. And they're like, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
They're like, fuck me. Like, do not give anyone any life advice. Like, who the fuck's going to listen to you? And they fucking shouldn't do. And I was like, yeah, that's a fair point, boys. I was like,
the thing is, I've listened to you today, and you've gone through a lot of experiences. But what would the one thing you would take from your life right now and say it has helped you to get where you are now?
Help me get to where I get. I think the important thing to remember is also what gets put out on social media isn't an accurate version of that person. Like I don't have a following on social media, but like I put out stuff on social media, like because it's helpful with work and stuff. I put a very shiny, polished version of myself that's often the finished product of many, many hours hard work prior, and doesn't show you all of the mistakes or moments of peril or anything else that's going on. So I think in terms of, like, people always say to me like, oh, you've got it together, man, like you're doing this and you're doing that, and I just stand there and I'm like, fucking don't, lad.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, you should see. Like,
Don't
I really, really don't. Like, in many ways, I'm just as I was when I was 18, and I haven't learned a lot of things, and I obviously have. But I think if I was to give anyone advice, would be, like, if you want to do something, just do it. And the hardest part about starting is starting. Just don't be a thinker, be a doer. Because you can spend, and I know people that spend so long thinking without doing that years go by and they haven't done anything. So just do. And whatever obstacle gets in your way, work out how to get over it, round it, or through it. Like, if something happens, like there's going to be bumps in the road, just go. Just keep going and enjoy it. Because you don't know when your last day is going to be your last day. But if you want to do something and you want to achieve it, find the dog in you to just get there and get it done. And get up every day and take a step towards doing it. And I think that's probably, that mentality has probably got me where I am. Not that where I am is anywhere enviable for anyone else, but I'm happy with where I am. And I think that's what's got me where I am. So, yeah.
And that will lead us right to the end of this on what is your quote and why?
Yeah, so my quote, I had to think about this actually, because there's quite a few that have stood out to me over whatever period of my life. And I think I've taken many different quotes depending on what sort of mood I'm in or what period of my life I'm in. I'm going to chuck out like a couple of random ones, and I'll give you the one which is like the overarching one for me. And the first one is like, "This too shall pass." And I think Tom Hanks said that on a podcast. And that really stood out to me because no matter what's going on right now, this too shall pass. And if you're having the worst time of your life, this too shall pass. Just chill out, take a step back and relax. And if everything's going seemingly well, this too shall pass, because at some point it's going to go wrong. So take a step back, don't let your ego get inflated, and chill. But like, I think the quote that stands out for me in terms of life and achievement and purpose is, and I don't know who quoted this, and I probably will quote it wrong, and I'll probably paraphrase it wrong as well. But it's, "If you think the price of success is high, wait until you get the bill of regret." And I think that's kind of how I think if I go back to like what I just said in terms of obstacles, like if you think the price of success is high, so whatever those obstacles might be, whether it's time, money, your parents' expectations of you, opportunities, whatever, like find a way to get through it, because if you don't, like the price of regret is going to be like horrific, or the bill of regret, as it said in that quote. And I think that's my quote.
That's probably well, it links to what you said literally 5 minutes ago about how you're impulsive and you've made some questionable decisions in your life. But
I say questionable decisions. I'm not a criminal or anything like that. But
just
like,
put that out there.
But you just learn, don't you? Like, as you're
Yeah.
young, you make mistakes, and
But
you
that,
learn.
like, you now won't regret that because you've done it. They say, like, you regret things that you don't do more than things that you do. And I know you might regret some stuff that you do.
I don't regret anything I've done.
At least
I think I've learned from a lot of the things that I've done,
Yeah.
but I don't regret it, because like you are like, you're just a being of your experiences, aren't you? Whatever you've done helps shape who you are. But yeah, I just think it kind of sums up that mentality. I think there's something to be said for just having. I use this phrase all the time. People laugh, but like having a bit of, like, finding that dog in you. Like, think of a dog which is just tenacious and like it's gonna get that bone, or it's gonna like chomp through this or do that. Like, just finding, like, it's in everyone somewhere, and just finding where that is in you and bringing that out to get to wherever you want to be. And you could apply that anywhere. Like, if you want to be a beautician, like, find the dog in you to be the best beautician that you can be. It doesn't matter. Like, just strive and like fulfill your own potential.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
And nice meeting you as well, because I've met you once.
Yeah,
but
we've
like,
only briefly met.